Resident Evil.
Welcome back, everybody, to an abridged review. I'm not going to waste your time, so I'm going to get the bottom line out of the way up front. I'm giving this game 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. It's not too bad, but it's not great. If you're a fan of reliving retro games from your youth, are already a fan of other Resident Evil titles, or just want an old school survival horror game, this is likely for you. It's cheap enough at this point where it may be worth your money. If you don't want to plod through a slow burn survival horror game with little reward in regards to story, you may want to take a pass and let this game kind of fade into obscurity. So at a high level, I'm gonna hit the high points.
There are only 3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.
First off, I didn't play Resident Evil growing up. I have no particular attachment to the series. I liked 7, that's about it. I don't have any nostalgia going into this, so that's one thing. Second thing, I played the HD PC port re-release of Resident Evil. I don't have a PlayStation lying around to spin this up on, and I wasn't going out of my way to play it the OG way. Third thing, I played as Chris Redfield, and I got the best ending. There's more detail about that in the written review if you're interested, but we'll just kind of continue on. So the larger story is kind of goofy. It's not so great. The acting's pretty terrible in the cutscenes, at least in English. I don't speak Japanese, so I couldn't comment on that. If any of you speak Japanese, go ahead, play. I didn't want to play with subtitles. To me, it's kind of important to break up how the story is presented to you. There's kind of 2 key ways. You either get it through the cutscenes, which is like the most direct method of the story being told to you, or there's stuff that's revealed to you through gameplay, just contextually and reading notes and all these other things that you find. So the cutscenes, like I said, pretty bad, but the contextual and gameplay kind of storytelling I actually found fairly enjoyable. There's some really standout parts with regards to this, and I think the game would have been better served with fewer cutscenes and more just being revealed through the gameplay. For me, playing the game and having the story revealed to you through the actions you take is a lot more effective than having it spoon-fed to you like you would in a movie. That's kind of what differentiates games and movies for me in a lot of ways. So cutscenes not really my thing, which is ironic because I love Metal Gear Solid. As far as the gameplay goes, again, this is a very old game. It's like 24-ish years old. It was on this PlayStation pre-DualShock, so before thumbsticks even. And it doesn't age particularly well. There are some kind of classic elements that I did enjoy, but there's a lot of stuff I didn't care much for either. So I'll get it out of the way. The worst part of this game is the fucking doors. If you played any of these old Resident Evil games before, you know what I'm talking about. So for those of you who don't know, every time you go through a door, there's a small cutscene of the door being opened. And that's every time, every single door. So I imagine this was a necessity to mask load screens back in the day. Some people argue that this adds to the kind of uncertainty and tension in the game. And I would say, yeah, it kind of does, at least at first. But, you know, as you progress and you have to start traversing the map, going over long sections, with many doors in between, it starts to become unbearable. So if you forgot something in the last room, door cutscene. Do you need to go to the other side of the map to solve a puzzle? Here's 15 door cutscenes. If it wasn't for just the variety of doors, I probably would have killed myself.
Resident Evil.
Another weak portion of the gameplay are the puzzles, I'll say. I'll kind of explain what I mean, because there are some genuinely decent puzzles that take a little brain power to solve. Most of them are not that way, and a lot of them are like key puzzles where you look at a door, it's locked, there's a thing next to it with a shape in it, and you need to put something that's that shape there so you can open the door. It's not really a puzzle. You already know there's a key required, and now you know what the key looks like, so you just basically walk around until you find it. Doesn't really take a whole lot of brain power. There are a couple thrown in that, you know, you have to solve some basic puzzles, but the problem I have with that is there's a lot of hints. Basically, you'll just run and find a note, and it's like an instruction manual for the puzzle. It's like, can you read is the puzzle, I guess. The other annoying portion that definitely did not age well is the inventory management. This is like highlighted by playing as Chris because he has a limited inventory size. I didn't play as Jill, so I don't know how much better it is, honestly, but you have like 6 slots or something, and everything you pick up takes up a slot. So you have a gun, it can hold, we'll say 12 rounds. Then you pick up an ammo box for that gun. That takes up an inventory. All the key items take up inventory slots. Pretty much everything you pick up can take up an inventory slot. And the worst part is you can't just drop something from your inventory onto the ground, no matter what. So if you have too much ammo, you have two options. Either you have to run and find one of the save rooms, which has an item box where you can store items, or you just have to start discharging rounds into the ground to make room to pick up this key item. Like if you find yourself in a part of the map that's like way removed from an item box and you need the extra inventory space, like that's your best option, is to just start shooting and then pick it up once you burn through enough ammo, which is a stupid thing. You should just be able to drop the ammo right out of your inventory, pick up the thing and then be on your merry way. That's not the case. It's old. It's not fun. So this complaint kind of goes away with subsequent playthroughs because you already know what you'll need and when you'll need it. But on the first playthrough, like this time, never played this game before, it's infinitely retarded. So those three things are really my biggest gripes with the gameplay. There's a couple of things that I actually enjoy that might be considered old by today's gaming standards. So one thing I like is how you save the game. For those that may not know, you have to go to a save room, there's a typewriter, then you need an ink ribbon for the typewriter, and then you can save your game. I like this more of as an idea. Like I think it's an interesting narrative kind of piece that you're this STARS team member in this weird mansion, and the only thing that marks your progress throughout the game is your character literally going to a typewriter and typing what happened. So that's pretty cool. It also functions to kind of slow the pacing down and break things up and give you it feels like a genuine rest when you're doing these things, and I did enjoy that. So the combat in Resident Evil is not run and gun, it's stand and gun. You can't swing your knife or fire a gun while moving. I think this actually does add to the tension of the game. It presents the most fundamental fight or flight decision that you can possibly get, pretty much. Either you stand still and shoot the thing till it's dead, or you run away, right? When you're in a boss fight, this makes a little less sense. Like if the giant spider's running at you, you have to stand in place and then shoot it. When that doesn't, the spider just continually comes at you or whatever. It could be any of those things. One other thing I enjoyed a lot, and I kind of miss seeing, and I kind of hesitate to call this a gameplay element, but static cameras. I like moving from scene to scene. It's more cinematic. It really does add to the tension. In modern games, it would be like third person, and they either force you down a narrow corridor where it doesn't matter where you look, or you can go up to a corner and then you sneak a little peek around the corner and you can see the scare ahead of you. It's not quite as effective. I know there's games that work around this.
Wesker, you've become senile.
Chris, you'll never understand.
So right off the top, I want to reiterate that I played the HD re-release of Resident Evil for PC, so all of these following impressions are going to be specifically with that in mind. Graphically, it looks fairly decent. Again, Capcom basically just slapped a new coat of paint on a very old game. Even with that being the case, I'd say stylistically the game has aged quite well. All the pre-rendered backgrounds and set pieces fits in with the rest. None really seem way out stylistically out of whack or anything like that. There's a decent amount of detail in just the image presented to you, and then a nice thing you can do is you interact with a wall or whatever, and then there'll be a little text dialogue box that kind of fills in some of the more details, and I kind of like that. You use your imagination more, to me anyway. The characters and enemies were also treated to remodeling, and the new models are decent enough. They're just like average video game models, I'd say. They still have that original feel. They still carry that kind of 90s look to them. They're just up-resed and more detail added, that sort of thing. The whole look of the game does a better job of selling the cheesy horror plot than the cutscenes do, if that makes sense. It looks creepy. If it wasn't for the artwork and locations in this game, it would be a lot worse. The pre-rendered cutscenes are decent enough looking, and they never feel like too much of a departure from the moment-to-moment graphics of general play. But by today's standards, the animation in both the cutscenes and in the game is pretty lackluster. The sound design, both music and effects, is probably the biggest highlight of this game, for me anyway. The composer for this game really nailed this ominous and intimidating feel for the soundtrack. It's packed with some really great, creepy, memorable tracks. I approve wholeheartedly. Funny enough, despite the doors being abysmal, the sound of the doors is very good. Trust me when I say these are the best door sounds you can find. That might be Stockholm Syndrome from opening so many goddamn doors in this game, but I'll leave that up to you. All the enemies make creepy sounds, the environment makes creepy sounds. All in all, sounds is about 55% of the overall creepiness of the game. The only terrible sound is the sound of dialogue being spoken by all of the main characters. It's poorly voice acted, poorly written, and stupid as hell. All in all, Resident Evil is an okay game. The larger story is wacky, but has some genuinely interesting elements to it. The gameplay is aging and not particularly well, but there are some elements to it that I still enjoy, and I wish I could be seeing more in modern gaming. The graphics are alright and hold up for the most part. The soundtrack and effects are still excellent, though the voice acting and writing put an overall damper on everything. So thank you for watching. If you have any interest whatsoever on getting my thoughts more in depth on this, you can head over to thetalkshoppe.com and check out the written review. I'll put a link in the description or whatever. If you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments. I don't really care. I'm done playing this game. I think it was about an 8-hour playthrough, something like that. That's good. I don't need any more. I didn't want to play as Jill. I don't want to play as Wesker. I don't really care. The story didn't hold me enough to make me interested to know what the difference in the plot would be. So, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Till next time.